Welcome, everyone, once again to All In on Big North Hockey. We do not have a lot more shows left of our first season. I would say probably two left, maybe three, but the state playoffs have begun. The quarterfinals have not started yet. They start tomorrow, but the first round is almost over in North and South Jersey. Technically, the first round will end tomorrow when Bridgewater Raritan meets Central Regional. That doesn't affect us. That's in South Public. The Big North itself, and having the state playoffs currently been going on right now. In fact, there is a game, as you'll see on the ticker, going on right now between one of the final teams from the Big North still in the postseason, Clifton United. They're having a rematch with Morris Knolls, Mars Hills. They lost 5-4 last year in the first round. They were a higher seed. They're a lower seed this year. There's 2:13 in the first period. Mars Knolls, Mars Hills has a 1-0 lead. State champion from 2 years ago. And you'll see if Clifton United can come back. The winner of that game will be in Menin Arena to face Park Regional on Friday afternoon, evening. Not sure exactly what time that game would be. But yeah, right now, as you said, under 2 minutes left in the first period, 1-0 Mars Knolls, Mars Hills against Clifton United. We'll continue to update you as that game goes along. But let's move on and start talking about the games that already occurred. We did previews of the state playoffs, and we are going to start with actually before we get into let's go to the games first. So we'll start with one of the many Big North, all Big North matchups that were featuring teams against each other. Fairlawn Dumont Bergenfield and Paramus Lyndhurst Mahwah. Of course, that was a very important game, no doubt about that. And, well, how did it go? This was one that happened before the bombardment of snow and frozen water in the state of New Jersey. This was on Friday from Ice Vault, Paramus Lyndhurst Mahwah, we just mentioned. They faced Fairlawn Dumont Bergenfield. I picked the Cutters to win that game, and they were not able to. Dylan Ferlanti had the only goal of the playoff game, and it's the second consecutive first-round loss for Fairlawn Dumont Bergenfield. Last year, they were a 2 seed and lost a 15 seed Magical Lakeland Hawthorne Waldwick. This year, they were a 12 seed, and they could not get it done against the Paramus Triop. Giovanni Massey had a goal. Prem Doshi had 2 assists. 2 points also for Massey. He had a goal and an assist. And EJ Scherer with 33 stops on 34 Cutters shots. Jack Feinstein faced far more shots, however. 39 stops on 43 PLM shots, and we're really seeing how PLM's offense can play. Giovanni Massey started the scoring, assisted by Landon Brisby. Derek Bellin eventually the game-winning goal, with assists by Ryan Lemanowicz, who had the most points in the game. Prem Doshi as well. Doshi had an assist on a Mason Young goal. Dylan Ferlanti on the power play from Devin Bittner. Their 2 best scorers were the guys that nixed the shutout for Scherer. But Miles Body from Lemanowicz later in the third made it 4-1. They never looked back. And PLM, they win the Silver Cup, but now this team was going to be a favorite. How could this team compete? Well, they took care of business. A team that finished third in the Stripes division, facing a team that finished second in the a team that finished second in the Patriot division. And let's applaud Fairlawn Dumont Bergenfield. A tremendous season by them. It was up and down, but they finished 10-13-1. And I just want to give a shout out to the seniors on this squad. Aiden Echevarria, we talked a little bit about him. Dylan Ferlanti, his final goal scored in this playoff game. Devin Bittner, who had a point in the playoff game as well, and Jack Feinstein, the goaltender, as well as Kate Falia, who's a great defensive checking forward, and she plays on this team in a major way. So definitely wanted to give a lot of kudos to them. Gavin Shaw will be coming back. So will Joey Labrani, who I think is going to be a captain. And they also bring back both backup goaltenders, Anthony Bennett, who will be coming into a senior season, and Colin Garcia, who will be a junior. But yeah, congratulations on a strong season by Farrell Dumont Bergenfield. But PLM are moving on. They will play. We'll let you know who they'll play because it's going to be another Big North opponent that we will be talking about in a second. But yeah, just wanted to give kudos to that team. By the way, currently end of the first period after some good offense, 15-7 shots with Morris Knolls, Morris Hills, and Clifton United. They're doing the ice cut with the Zamboni right now in Mendon, so it'll be a longer break out in Morris Plains. 15 shots by Morris Knolls, Morris Hills, and 14 saves for Thomas Canataro. Clifton United have 7 shots on net, but the goaltender Trento for Knolls Hills has all 7 saves. So let's see that. Now let's move on to games that had already occurred as well. Starting off with Tuesday, Monday, there's supposed to be games, but it got snowed out. And we'll start with Northern Highlands and Glen Rock. Should have that graphic here. I was actually at this game, though I came in the third period. Northern Highlands already scored their goals back then. I'll tell you, Glen Rock, if they could establish more offense the way that they do, to me, my whole thing here is, boy, they're going to be fearsome because they bring back a lot of players to next year's team. 7-12-4 they finished. Ben Barada had 2 goals for the Highlanders. He had 3 points. He had an assist as well. Carter Beswick had 2 assists. Kaimov didn't face a lot of Panthers shots, but he stopped all of them, 23 stops. And the Highlanders put 48, made Milo Smith stop 48 pucks, 52 shots on net by Northern Highlands. Ben Barada got the first goal and the game winner. Lakin Roddick and Connor Cusado had an assist on that. Lakin Roddick also had a shorthanded goal, assisted by Carter Beswick. The sophomore, Davin Friedman, got going, assisted by Barada and Connor Cusado. And Ben Barada, assisted by Carter Beswick and Davin Friedman. I mean, those 3 guys, Cusado, Barada, Friedman. And Barada comes back. Remember, he did not play in their Gold Cup win, their 4-0 win over Ridgewood, due to the fact that that he was in the Minnesota club. He was in the club in Minnesota with Will Asaro playing for Ridgewood, who we're going to talk about. In fact, interesting note for Northern Highlands is they have played their last 9 periods, and they have outscored their opponents 12-1. 4-0 win over Ridgewood, 4-1 win over TCL, Tenafly Cresca Leonia, and a 4-0 win over Glen Rock. So they move on to the next round. They will be playing tomorrow, I believe, 4:15 or 4:30. And I'm going to mention the matchup because it's not a Big North team. They'll be hosting Morristown. Very interesting game. You're going to see, through the most part, of the teams still available from the Big North that are still in the postseason, there's a lot of MCSIHL crossover. That's the Morris County, Scholastic, MCS, Interscholastic Hockey League, or something. I think that's what it's called. So you're going to see a lot of crossover for those teams. I think there's only 2 matchups where the Big North team is not facing an MCSIHL squad. So we'll talk about that. But yes, Northern Highlands 4-0 blanks Glen Rock. And so they'll move on to be in Sportorama tomorrow and host Morristown, which could be their final game in Sportorama, depending on what happens with other games, which we'll mention in a little bit. Now we move over to, the game that we were just going to speak about, which is the 1 seed. Which I thought I had it here. Forgive me. We'll just mention it, even though for whatever reason it's not appearing. And that's Roxbury. We mentioned this game already. We didn't have the graphic. Roxbury and Ridgewood. So Roxbury and Ridgewood. Let's talk about how this game went. Well, it was a blowout win for the Maroons. It's what they were expected to do. Roxbury came into the game at 1-14. They had only had a 1-0 overtime win over Bernard's Somerville Middlesex, who was on the bottom of North Co-op. Chase Alvin had the only goal for the Gales. Will Lazaro had a hat trick. Believe it or not, 74. No, excuse me, not 74. You got that wrong. 85 shots on the young goaltender for Roxbury, Nathan Lecaro. 85 shots on goal. Oliver Grant only faced 8 shots. He had 7 stops on 8 Roxbury shots. As we mentioned, 85 shots by this Ridgewood offense. Lecaro made 73 saves for Roxbury. Willis Earl had a 6-point night. He had a hat trick. They scored the first 2 goals, including what ended up being the game winner, which was assisted by Christian McCarthy and his brother. In fact, the first 3 goals were all assists by AJ Lazaro. AJ to his brother twice, and then to Christian McCarthy, who got a goal from Will Lazaro and AJ Lazaro. Lassen Zera got a goal from Sam Sherman. AJ Lazaro, goal from Will Lazaro and Liam Sherland. Jack Malbin also had a goal in the second. Mark Furman, and at that point, that made the lead 7-0. We mentioned the Chase Alvin goal from their leading point scorer, Michael Nelson, set it up. And then AJ Lazaro had a goal for Ridgewood. And then 3 goals in the third to end it at the mercy rule, which was, ironically, Will Lazaro had a brace going into the final moments. And Will Lazaro got the hat trick to end the game. So it's basically a sudden death hat trick, because the mercy rule is when you lead by 10 before the third period, at the end of the second period, or before the third period's over, that ends the game. So they won 11-1, and they will host Summit, who won about an hour and a half ago, I should say, 3-0 over Chatham. That's one of the 2 matchups that is not MCSIHL. So Ridgewood will host Summit, I think, sometime on Friday. Not sure if it's afternoon, evening, whenever that would be in Hackensack. But Ridgewood will host the Summit Hilltoppers. The only team we'll be mentioning from the NJIHL. They're from the McGinnis division. If you remember, West Essex Caldwell, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, against West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes. That's from the same division. In fact, Summit beat them in the quarterfinals of the McGinnis Cup playoffs. So Ridgewood will be facing Summit, who is, as I like to call it, the Summit Park the Bus Hilltoppers, and that's not an insult to their team or how they play. It's actually a compliment. They're a very strong defensive squad. We'll talk about them later when we do the predictions. Now we move on to the West Essex, Caldwell, West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes game, and that also, I believe, the graphic. That graphic is AWOL. So let's talk about it, as they're still waiting to start the second period in that game we were mentioning with Mars Knowles Hills and Clifton United. Let's talk about it. This was a good one. This was West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes up against West Essex Caldwell. And WMPQPL got it done. 4-3 win over West Essex Caldwell. A good matchup between a lot of these schools are not too far from them. Pompton Lakes is not terribly far from West Essex or Caldwell. Pequannock is very close to where James Caldwell is, and they're in the same division starting this year in football. So, there's some rivalries there, and kids tend to know each other. West Essex Caldwell's had a couple games in Ice Vault. Now, if you remember, they met earlier in Englewood Field Club, and it was a rout for WMPQPL, but I said this was going to be a close game, and it was. Dante Gallucci had a goal for the Knights last week. If you remember, I was talking about Carmine Gobart, a Bogart, had to be huge in this game. He didn't have a point. I think that was part of what changed things. Dante Gallucci was by far the best Knight skater. He had a goal and an assist. Joy Barraquario usually passes the torch goal-scoring wise to Tim Ritchie, but the two kind of went to his other shoes. Timmy Ritchie was the passer, and Barraquario was the one finishing plays. Matt Montana was tremendous for WPQPL. 32 stops on 35 shots. They actually faced more shots than Dario Gallucci, the sophomore goaltender for West Essex Caldwell Knights, did. 24 stops on 28 shots, but it was just too much. Barraquario with 2 goals, mentioned an assist, 3-point night. D had 3 points as well. We don't talk a lot about him. Max D, who's another Pequannock Golden Panther. And Timmy Ritchie had 4 points, though, to lead the team, a goal and 3 assists, including the in-winner setting up Barraquario, setting up D, and that ended up being the difference. Also an assist by Braden Klein. So West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes will be moving on to tomorrow afternoon to Hardystown in Sussex County to face the defending champions, my alma mater, KJS United, Kinnelon Jefferson Sparta United, who surprisingly squeaked out only a 3-1 win over Parsippany Regionals, a Haas Charette team that's the lowest division, who didn't even win their division, playing KJS. So that's kind of interesting, and my pick's going to be definitely going to have to figure out my pick here, because I think that changes how you attack this, especially now that WMPQPL feels like they might have their offense back. This is also a rematch, that game coming up tomorrow between KJS United and West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes. It's a rematch of the North Co-op sectional final in Menin Arena last year that KJS was able to win. And then they won the section, and then they won the whole shebang. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Let us move on to the next game, and that's the really, really big one. Tenafly Cresca Leonia and Wayne Hockey. To my knowledge, the only game in all of the boys hockey, and actually you can include girls as well, although obviously we're talking about boys, but the only game that I'm aware of that, it's the only game that has gone to overtime. As by the way, they're about to start the second period between Morris Knolls, Mars Hills, and Clifton United. But let's bring up this game, and that's of course Tenafly Cresca Leonia and Wayne Hockey, a game that I thought TCL played outstanding. I thought they played outstanding, and boy, I've heard to speak to his parents. I got to tell you, the freshman Landon Friedman is just such a tremendous young man. What he was able to do in this game, and let's talk about this game. So, as we mentioned, this was Tuesday, TCL against Wayne Hockey, the 2 seed and the 15 seed. Now, Wayne Hockey had lost as a 6 seed to 11 seed Park Regional last year. And remember, the 15 seed had beaten the 2 seed last year in an all Big North matchup, which was out of divisional. Fairlawn, Dumont, Bergenfield falling to Lakeland, Hawthorne, Waldwick. Well, how did this game start? Well, this game started, for the most part, Wayne kind of controlled possession and played pretty well. But there were a little bit of some turnovers. And one adjustment that I really like that TCL worked into this game was Knaus usually moves on the forward because of the depth and the size of Wayne. What they ended up doing really well in this game was they put Knaus primarily and almost entirely on the blue line as not even as a bumper, as a set stopper. And he would go into the fray when he could, but really work his magic from the blue line. And he was strong. He had the first goal of the game. Then Max Lukin got a goal in a deflection. Suddenly it was 2-0 TCL, but Darren Cole just went to the goal and backhanded a puck that Friedman just could not see, the freshman. Ashkenazi made a good pass from the corner, and again, it was Ashkenazi, Stansfield, we talk about them. And then Scotty Stansfield had a break to tie the game, and Wayne Hockey was dominant in the third period in offensive chances, but it goes to overtime. And what occurs in overtime? Wayne Hockey punches the puck in, makes hits, makes plays, hits the post, and there's a chance for Friedman to glove it down. And then there was a skater, I think it was one of the Cushman brothers, but I'm not entirely sure who it was, but who gloved the puck out of the crease because they realized that puck was trickling close to the goal line. And he was down. If you guys watch the Olympics, very similar to the Connor Hellebuck stick save and that's kind of what was occurring. But you can't glove the puck down in the crease if you're a skater. It's a penalty shot. So who takes the penalty shot? Scott Stansfield. Stansfield had a chance to win the game in overtime with a penalty shot and nowhere for him to go with the puck. Incredible save by Landon Friedman. The freshman was amazing, but how do you beat goaltenders in a playoff game? You just get those shots that they can't see. And Brady Dries gets a drop pass from Natsuk, just hammers it from the point. And from my vantage point, I thought it was deflected. It was not. It just had eyes of its own, and it trickles under the crossbar like it was looped and goes under the crossbar, beats Friedman, beats the freshman, ends his first season in high school hockey. And Wayne Hockey, with a lot of seniors, finds a way to not get upset by the 15 seed in my opinion, the best game, if not the co-op, definitely, if not the entire playoffs, definitely the co-op bracket of these state playoffs so far. And so Brady Dries has the only overtime goal of any game in these playoffs and wins it for Wayne Hockey. And so the number 2 seed will move on. Again, we're not going to mention who they're going to face because the bracket had to do with a Big North team. So we're going to mention that in a second. But let's talk about how this game not just how this game ended, but let's kudos the seniors on TCL. Obviously, got a first start by Troy Knaus. His older brother Devin led the way when they went to the sectional final 2 years ago, and Troy was a sophomore, now a senior, playing in his final game, got a goal. Congratulations to him. He will be sorely missed. Congratulations to Max Lukin, who has been strong as a heady defenseman. A season he's had, the 6'1", 165 senior, so kudos to him. Both of the Cushman brothers, Ben and Zach, both who played very well. I believe Ben had a goal. Ben did have a goal in this game. Leah Kim and Caleb Kim, the brother and sister tandem, who also have a lot of history at TCL with some of their older siblings playing a couple years back. Congratulations to them. And those are your seniors. Now, the good thing after losing Dimitri Jefferson last year is TCL bring back both goaltenders, both that were freshmen, in Landon Friedman and Yotam Goldfarb. They also bring back John Lee, who, in my opinion, if not him, Charlie Simon, one of the two will likely be the captains next year. Brian Ann, who did not play like a freshman, I thought he played like a senior. He's only a freshman, so he comes back. Evan Moy comes back. They have some great players, but again, congratulations to the seniors on TCL and all that they were able to accomplish this year. By the way, there is 11:40 to go in the second period. It is still 1-0 Morris Knolls Mars Hills. They lead 17-8 in shots, 3-1 in shots in this period, but Clifton United have put the fork down. They've only given up the one goal, trying to obviously stay alive in these state playoffs. Let us move on to another game that occurred, or most of them did occur on Tuesday. And that was Pascack Park Ridge and Ultapan Demarest New Milford. We mentioned when we were talking about the Fairlawn, the Paramus Lyndhurst Mahwah score, because Pascack Park Ridge was facing Northern Valley. It was a rematch. It was the third time these two teams have met. Remember, 6-5 in overtime. They met earlier this year, 4-1. And interestingly enough, each time they played, the game got more lopsided in favor of Pascack Park Ridge. And boy, was this lopsided. 8-goal margin of victory for PPR. They go to 13-7, and they move on to the quarterfinals to host the Paramus Tri-Op. Joe Mayer from Park Ridge, NJIC guy, had 3 goals. He had a hat trick. Alex Labe only had a goal for Ultapan Demarest New Milford. Colton Lathrop had 2 assists. Labe 2 points for them as well. Joe Mayer 5 points, 3 goals, and 2 assists. Justin Yu had 3 assists for Pascack Park Ridge. And Tyler Rothschild, 35 stops on 37 shots. And Logan Mascaro had 21 stops on 31 Pascack Park Ridge shots. Jack Sheehan started the scoring thanks to Justin Yu. Joe Mayer from Gavin Franklin and Marty Tarabakia and Joe Mayer on the power play, his second of the period, ended up being the game-winning goal in this playoff game. Assist from Jack Sheehan and Justin Yu. Alex Labe, thanks to William Park, still a contender despite the fact his team is no longer in the playoffs for Defensive Player of the Year in the Big North. Got an assist as well as Colton Lathrop. Then it was Grayson Wheeler. Then Jack Sheehan. Then we got to the third. Owen Dargan, Joe Mayer, Marty Tarabakia. At the time, it was 8-1. William Park got a goal. Kyle Romano. So William Park had a goal and an assist from Labe and Colton Lathrop. Kyle Romano from Tarabakia. JT Panaganopoulos also. And Grayson Wheeler from Joey Sacco. And TJ Dargan. And that ends that. What a route for Pascack Park Ridge. So they move back to the the quarterfinals, just like they did last year. Last year they lost in the first round at home, so the second round at home against um, the second round at home against KJS United, and we have a goal for Clifton United. Ryan Cisco on a wide open net slams it home over a diving Trento, and with 9:40 to go in the second period, Ryan Cisco has tied it for Clifton United. Well, how about that? So this game is all even at 1 apiece. As we are checking up on that game, I do not believe that game will be over by the time that we're done, although if we continue to take it slow, talking about each game, it may be. But that is how it goes. Pascack Park Ridge will advance, and they will play Paramus Lyndhurst Mahwah for the first time in their history in the postseason. And as we mentioned, they were at home. They lost in the semifinals to the quarterfinals to KJS United at home. Let's see if they will lose at home. I'm going to check real quickly for them. Actually, we'll go back to that, where the game is, because I saw on their athletic schedule they're playing at Ice Bowl, though that's not their home. They actually didn't play at Sportorama because of scheduling issues with St. Joseph Montvale, who plays there, as Clifton United have just given up a goal. Shot from the boards by Knowles Hills. They lead 2-1 with 8:49 left. I believe it's Nemchek, the same guy that scored the go-ahead goal, the first goal of the game. So they now trail 2-1. But they would either play in Englewood or Sportorama. But I saw they're playing at Icefall. But we'll check that in a second. Let's kudos to the seniors of Old Tappan, Demarest, New Milford. Team coached by two coaches, Donnie Quarles and Mike Henry. Jet Garassi, let's give credit to him, the senior. William Park, what an illustrious career, and taking this team from the doldrums to a legitimate playoff team. William Park, as we mentioned. Lucas Sands, forward defenseman, congratulations to him. And that's it for seniors. They only have 3 seniors that they're graduating. So a lot of this team comes back. Problem is, losing a player like William Park is a huge hit. It's a massive blow to Old Tappan, Demarest, New Milford, but still, congratulations on a great season for them. Congratulations to those seniors. Again, that's Jet Garassi, William Park, and Lucas Sands. And just like TCL, they bring back all their goaltenders. And obviously, the guy to watch, no question about it, is going to be Colt Lathrop, who will be a junior next year. And he might be a captain as well for their squad. I'm talking, of course, about Old Tappan, Demarest, New Milford. So now we'll move on to another Big North MCSIHL matchup. Actually, before we do, we'll do that, and then we'll move over to who they would play as the schedule goes on, or where they would play, sorry. And that is Mohoha and Riverdale Westwood Emerson. Mohoha is Mount Olive, Hopatcong, Hackettstown. It's actually one of only 2 tri-ops with 3 schools in 3 different counties, one in Warren County, Sussex, and Morris. And they faced the Old Bergen County School in Riverdale Westwood Emerson. Emerson, obviously, the NJIC school as well. A team that actually went all the way to the state championship in wrestling. So congratulations to them in that sense. But back to the hockey. Whoa, what a back and forth game this game was. Kenny Walsh, 5 minutes into the game, scores the first from Jace Estrin. Jace Estrin then gets a goal thanks to Walsh and Lank. But Ryan Walsh, not related to Kenny Walsh, who I believe is a Hackettstown guy, scores from Dominic Landolfi Mount Olive kid, and Anthony Walsh. Dominic Landaffi also gets a goal from Ryan Walsh to tie it up in the second. Gavin Whitreich made it 3-2. Then Ryan Walsh has his second of the game, and the third period belonged to Mohoha. Dominic Landaffi with his second of the game from Anthony Walsh and Keegan Siborski, another Mount Olive player, got the game-winning goal, and then Landaffi ends up with an empty netter for a hat trick. It was a great game by Dominic Landaffi. Ryan Walsh was strong as well for Mohoha. 4 points for Walsh, 5 points for Landaffi, 3 goals and 2 assists. 2 assists for Anthony Walsh, as well as an apple for Keegan Siborski. The Riverdale Westwood Emerson side, Kenny Walsh had a goal and an assist. Christian Bieber only had an assist. I think that was part of why this game ended the way it did. Bieber was not able to score a goal. Whitreich had a point, a goal. You mentioned Estrin had a goal and an assist. Jack Aluado, who's been a great goaltender. Aluado faced 17 shots, 13 stops, and Connor Lomax was really the difference also for this game because Riverdale Westwood Emerson had 34 shots on net, twice as much as Mohoha. But Lomax had 31 stops on the 34 shots, and that kind of was the difference as things all evened out the way that it turned out. And Riverdale Westwood Emerson not going to move on in the playoffs. It's been a rough and tumble season for them. They'll end the season 10-10-1, but not able to win. They would have hosted either Tenafly Cresco Leonia or went to the Ice Vault, but instead it's Wayne Hockey actually going to face Mohoha tomorrow, I believe, from Wayne. It should be a really intriguing game. But let's talk about the seniors from the Riverdale Westwood Emerson side, coached by Eric Fleischman. Jack Aluado, the goaltender, senior. Congratulations to him. A strong season. I believe Gavin Whitreich is not come back. So Gavin Whitreich as well. Jace Estrin, Max Silberstein, who really was the surge marker for this team that kept this team just flying at a high octane pace. Kenny Walsh, bumper defenseman, and Nick Meltzer. So congratulations to them and a good season for Riverdale Westwood Emerson. And I forgot to actually use the graphic. But that game did occur as well. Let's move on to a couple others. In fact, all of the games will be on this date from now on that we're talking about, because the only other game in the Big North is currently going on with Mars Hills up 2-1 over Clifton United with 3:22 to go in the second period. And we move on to the second to last game. And that was another Big North MCSIHL matchup. It was PCTI, who's had a rough and tumble season, very young team, going up against Mendham at the Ice Vault. And PCTI actually got the lead early on. They scored the first goal of the game in early in the second period. Logan Grillo had the goal, and they went into the first half of that third period with a lead, getting some really good play by Nick Stylianesis. But lo and behold, the third period turned. The man advantage went on, and Sam Lucy, the power play coach, former Mendham Minutemen, really helped guide this team and coach it to a strong power play marks that they did get. Stylianesis with a high series of saves. NJ doesn't have how many shots on net, but I actually took a picture of it from another site. So just give me a brief moment, as I had actually deleted the picture, and I'm going to get it back and tell you how many shots on net it was. Stylianesis had 10 stops on 14 Mendham shots. And again, the issue really for the most part was PCTI. They 26 that's right. They had 22 shots on net and 21 stops by Brendan Eigner. Brendan Eigner is just a maven in goal. And boy, he allowed that one goal earlier to Grillo. Madeira and Fassi got assist on that, but 2 goals by Kasper Lesiak for the Minutemen. Brandon Eigner, Brendan's brother, with a goal and an assist. 2-point night, along with Akil Pasquier had an assist, and Dennis Noonan had an apple. And so Mendham moves on. They eliminate PCTI and advance to the quarterfinals tomorrow. They'll take on Livingston. PCTI unable to go to that level to face the Lancers because they were unable to win that game against Mendham. So let's congratulate the seniors on PCTI. I'm not sure how many there were. Aiden Jobst, congratulations to him. Zach Soder, a strong player on their end. Caden Novella, defenseman, also plays as a forward. Bruce Rivera. Nick Stylianesis, by far their leader as a goaltender as well. So congratulations to all those Passaic County Technical Institute Bulldog players. So congratulations to them. By the way, still 2-1. Mars Knowles, Mars Hills. Clifton United is killing off a penalty still. Under a minute to go in the second period there, and they only have a 5-minute break going to the third. So we may have time to kind of stick on. I may actually, what I may do actually is I'll kind of, I don't know what the word is, lambast myself and capitulate so it could stay. And by the way, we have another update just that quickly. A gut punch for Clifton United. Knowles Hills gets another goal. It is 3-1. It's a power play goal with 36 seconds left in the second period. Clifton United were nearly out of that penalty. Had nearly killed off the penalty, but instead it is 3-1. I don't know why I am. So the disconnection there. We're back, and I'm going to continue talking about some of the matchups that happened in the final playoff game before we bring up, the top 20, the top rankings and the teams that are currently still playing in the playoffs. And that was Big North MCSIHL. This time, the Big North team was able to come up on top. The 6-11 matchup in North Public, West Morris Central and Ramapo. Boy, this was a defensive scoreless for most of the game, but boy, Ramapo had a heavy amount of shots. I got to say, Mark Divis was the star of this game, despite the fact Wismar Central didn't get it done. 47 stops on 49 Raiders shots. Lehero had 20 stops on 21 West Morris Central shots. JJ Kilpatrick had a goal, and the first goal went to him. It was kind of a backhander under the goaltender Divis, and it was just basically they couldn't get the puck out of the zone, West Morris Central, and allowing Ramapo to skate off the corner, allow a lot of plays by Brendan Gold, a lot of plays by Kilpatrick. West Morris Central did a very good job of not allowing a lot by Ahern. He did have an assist. And then it's funny, when you have lethal scorers, you can do incredible things. And West Morris Central, after being down 2-0, scored on a howitzer of a shot by Ron Armillo. But a minute later, just Scotty Vivinetto to the rescue. A low slot shot that deflected through off of a West Morris Central stick. And they never were able to get a lot of clean possessions, a lot of clean chances, despite the fact that at times, skating-wise, they were making plays. Shot-wise, possession-wise, Ramapo was the better team, and the Raiders figured out a way to get it done, and so they will move on. Last year, they met Ridgewood in the quarterfinals, but it's not going to get much easier this year. It won't be Ridgewood, but it'll be Randolph. And if you know anything about the sports in the fall, soccer, volleyball, a bunch of other sports, Ramapo and Randolph had this great non-traditional playoff rivalry. And so they'll be meeting each other in the playoffs tomorrow evening in Randolph in Sport Care. Actually, I will be there. And the Raiders will meet the Randolph Rams. The winner moves on to the semifinals. So congratulations to Ramapo. They are moving on. Now, before we talk about anything else, also mention it is the end of the second period. But, boy, it looked like it could have been a one-goal game for Clifton United coming into the third, but now they're going into the third down by 2. They're down 3-1 against Morris Knowles, Morris Hills. Pascack, Park Ridge, Paramus, Lyndhurst, Mahwah. They are meeting tomorrow at 8:15. I'm seeing if maybe I can get a word on where that game is going to be. We don't have a time yet for tomorrow, at least that I saw. Let's see, check real quick. For Mount Olive, Hopatcong, Hackettstown against Wayne Hockey. Yeah, that's not set yet when that game is, unless that game did get moved to Friday. Did. That's odd. I think it might have to do with scheduling. The game got moved to Friday, which is very odd. At 8:15, Wayne against Mohoha. So they'll be playing on Friday, which I say it again, I find that quite odd, but to each their own, whatever you want to say. And then for Pascack Park Ridge Hockey, they are playing tomorrow at Icefall, against Paramus, Lyndhurst, Mahwah. Now, why that's there, not exactly sure. And they felt like they had to move the Mohoha game, but whatever. That's not that big of a. That's not that big of a thing. But whatever, right? But yeah, there you go. And be going on at those times, as we had previously mentioned. But now we can bring up some other things now. Now we can start talking about first our top 10 to some of my graphics here. But there we go. I thought we had it. We are trying to get one of the graphics up, if we will, on I'm very sorry. I'm not sure why we're lagging a bit here, but we're attempting to. There we go. It's much better now. To get our top 10 matchup of the teams. So far, our top 10 all in Big North Hockey rankings is number one, Ridgewood. They are in first place because obviously, what they've done. They've been a super strong team, high octane team. They'll be facing Summit, I believe, on Friday. So that may not be all. Settled in, although it says that they are set to play tomorrow. Although I don't know if some of them want to play back to back, but Ridgewood is anchored in as the number one seed. Two seed being Northern, or number one in the all in Big North hockey rankings. Number two, Northern Highlands, big win over Glen Rock. They're off to the semifinals, the quarterfinals against Morristown. I mean, Pascack Park Ridge, blowout win over Ultapan Demorest New Milford. I mean, you look at them; they're three. They're going to have that game tomorrow evening against Paramus Lyndhurst Mahwah. You got Ramapo at the 4 spot. We'll be playing Randolph tomorrow night, so there's that as well. Wayne Hockey are at 5. I mean, they're a strong team. Going to host Mohoha, as we mentioned. Paramus Lyndhurst Mahwah. They're going to be playing Pascack Park Ridge. Clifton United. They will be facing. They're playing right now. They're down by 2. Put them at 7 because this was before today. West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes. Thought about putting them at 7, but they jump into the rankings with their big win over West Essex Caldwell. They're still in it, and then there aren't enough teams, so we had to take in some of the teams that have already been knocked out of the playoffs. That's Fairlawn Dumont Bergenfield, 9th, with the strong play that they've had despite their loss to the Paramus Triop, and PCTI at 10 despite their loss to Mendham at 10. So there's your top rankings. And by the way, we are underway in the third period, and Knowles Hill's got another goal. It is 4-1. Things not looking great for Clifton United after Cisco made it 2-1. Since that, it is 2 consecutive goals for the Golden Eagles, who lead 4-1 and getting closer and closer. They are 14 minutes and 5 seconds away from the quarterfinals against Park Regional, quite likely on Friday. Though Clifton United would like to be here on Friday against Park Regional if they can come back and win this game. We shall see. Now let's bring up the teams that are currently remain in the postseason. And Clifton United just got a goal back. Trevor Rasher, okay, back and forth offense like it seems to be with these teams. Trevor Rasher led the way and actually lifted his stick. And so just like that, guys, Clifton United are back in it. 4-2 Morris Knolls, Morris Hills. We definitely have to stay here for this, for the rest of this game, unless, overtime, then they would have to do an ice cut, and we're not going to stay 2-3 hours on the show, obviously. So unless there is overtime, we'd have to definitely stay there. As, oh my goodness, Clifton United just hit the crossbar, trying to go bar down and make it a 1-goal game, and had another opportunity to score. Wow, that's going to be interesting. We'll monitor it. But they are one of the teams, obviously, still around in the postseason, as they're hanging around in this game, down 4-2. Wayne Hockey, who have officially moved on to the quarterfinals to face Mohoha on said Friday night. Paramus, Lyndhurst, Mahwah. They're facing Pascack Park Ridge tomorrow. They move on. Pascack Park Ridge, they're facing Paramus, Mahwah, Lyndhurst. There's Lyndhurst, Mahwah tomorrow. Northern Highlands, they move on to the quarters. Sportorama, they'll host Morristown tomorrow. West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes, they travel to Hardyston, Skylands Ice World to take on KJS United tomorrow afternoon. That's about a 3:50 start. In fact, if you check TJK Network, I believe he'll be doing a stream on that. And guess what? Knowles Hill scored again. Oh, boy. So just after it was a 2-goal game, thanks to Trevor Rasher, it's back to a 3-goal lead. This is goals bonanza, 12:30 to go in the contest, and it is Morris Knolls, Morris Hills 5, Clifton United 2. So there you go so far in the third period. But we mentioned Northern Highlands against Morristown. Ridgewood will face Summit either tomorrow or Friday. Again, I would think Friday, but the check tomorrow morning on either Union County athletic schedule for Summit or Big North for Ridgewood, and that will be in Hackensack in the Ice House either on Thursday or Friday between the Maroons and the Hilltoppers, as they will meet Summit that time. And Ramapo in Randolph tomorrow to face the Randolph Rams in Sport Care in the North Public playoffs. So 3 of the 4 teams in North Public in the quarterfinals, 2 of which will have home games, Ridgewood and Northern Highlands. In fact, if they both win their home games, Ridgewood and Northern Highlands would meet in the semifinals from Hackensack, which would be a rematch of last year's semifinal, but the venue's reversed. Instead of Highlands being the 1 seed and Ridgewood being the 4, it's Ridgewood the 1, Highlands the 4. But remember, Ridgewood has not beaten the Highlanders all year long. They haven't won against Northern Highlands since they beat them last year in the state playoffs. So those are your remaining 2026 Big North teams. 8, although it will be 7 if the Golden Eagles can hold this lead right now. They're up 5-2 with about 11 minutes to go in the game. Now we'll move over to our playoff leaderboards. So we have postseason leaderboards, and then at the end of the season, whenever the last Big North team is still standing, we'll have a final leaderboard that will run. We'll either run it next week if there's no Big North team that either gets to the semifinal or gets to the state championship, depending on when we do the show. We'll have to figure that out because I believe the semifinals are Thursday, so not sure if we want to do that at that time. I apologize for the interruption. Hey, Echo, stop. That is my Amazon machine going. But anyway, as we mentioned, we'll start with the playoff statistics, and we start off with the point scorers. Number one in first place with 6 points against the Roxbury Gales in that first round 11-1 win over the Gales. Will Asaro, you'll see plenty of Ridgewood Maroons here. Joe Meyer had 5 points from Pascack Park Ridge. He had 5 points for the Park Ridge Owls for Pascack Park Ridge in their 10-2 win over Northern Valley Hockey. AJ Lucero with a 5-point night, also against Roxbury. He's third in points. Marty Tarabaki, I haven't mentioned him, 4 points for Pascack Park Ridge in their win over Northern Valley. Timmy Ritchie, the first non-Pascack Park Ridge or Maroon to be mentioned, 4 points for West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes, specifically from NJIC Pompton Lakes Cardinals, with 4-point night in their 4-3 win over West Essex Caldwell. Ben Barada, 3 points in their 4-0 win over Glenrock for Northern Highlands. Seventh is Max D, 3 points for Pequannock. We mentioned him, and I believe the game-winning goal for West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes in their 4-3 win over West Essex Caldwell. Jack Sheehan, 3 points from Pascack Park Ridge, specifically from Pascack Valley. Sam Sherman, 3 points for Ridgewood. And Justin Yu, 3 points from Pascack Park Ridge Hockey, specifically from the Pascack Hills Broncos. There you go for your leading point scorers. And by the way, if this score holds and Clifton United doesn't get it done, we will mention the scorers, the seniors, and congratulate Clifton United on the season that they had. And then there will be 7, and then there was 7. But we'll see if maybe the CU can come back here. Now, that was the Big North rankings we had spoken about before. Now we'll mention the top 10 Big North saves. I don't do goalie average anymore in the playoffs. Although his team is out of the postseason, so far, it might be usurped later, Landon Friedman with 37 stops for Tenafly Cresca Leonia. He had 37 saves in that loss, facing 40 shots on net to Wayne Hockey. And his counterpart is right behind him with just 3 less stops. Lucas Egan, 34 stops from Wayne Hockey, specifically Wayne Valley. The golfer parred way under. Great by him. Just 1 short, another goaltender who still has his playoff season going, and the freshman EJ Scherer, 33 stops on 34 shots against Farrell and Dumont Bergenfield in their win over them. Matt Montana, 32 stops on 35 shots by West Essex Caldwell for West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lake, specifically from the West Milford Highlanders. Tyler Rothschild, 28 stops on 30 shots by Northern Valley from Pascack Hills and Pascack Park Ridge. Jack Feinstein, 25 stops against Paramus Hurst-Mawa team, one of the few, just like Landon Friedman, whose season is no longer going on. Matthew Kaimoff in 7th place with 23 stops on all 23 Glen Rock shots for Northern Highlands. Logan Mascaro, 21 stops, but his season obviously is over with their 10-2 loss to Pascack Park Ridge on 31 shots that were scored, that were levied against him and scored. Luc Leheroux, 19 stops against West Morris Central in 9th place for Ramapo. His season still going on. And Nick Stellanakis, who had 10 stops in their 4-1 loss to Mendham, is in 10th place. His season obviously is over. But although I will say, that was before we got into this game, the game currently going on, because right now Cannataro has 33 stops, which would put him tied with third for where Scherer is at, and he just stopped the puck again for his 34th save of the night. So he has just tied Egan for second in saves. So before this game is over, Cannataro, who wasn't even on this list because they hadn't started the playoffs, might be leading the Big North despite losing in saves. So, as we said right now, he's got 30. No, they apparently didn't say it was a shot on goal. So he's 33 saves. So he's still tied with Scherer for third. If he gets 4 more, he'll tie Friedman for first. If he gets 5 more saves in this game, he'll take the lead in the Big North. But let's move on to some other Narcs as well. We talked about points and we talked about saves. Let's talk about assists. Will Lazaro, with 3 assists, leads all apple pickers, I guess you could say, from Ridgewood. Marty Tarabakia, 3 assists for Pascack Park Ridge in their win. Justin Yu, third from Pascack Hills, 3 assists for Pascack Park Ridge. By the way, massive power play coming up for Clifton United. They trailed by 3 with 7:17 to go in the third period. And really, it's a must score on this power play to really have a chance to stay alive in this game. Anyway, we mentioned that with Will Lazaro, 3 assists. Marty Tarabakia had 3 assists from Pascack Valley Park Ridge. Justin Yu, 3 assists, Pascack Hills Park Ridge. AJ Lazaro, 3 assists for Ridgewood. And finally, a non-maroon Pascack Park Ridge player in Timmy Ritchie, who had 3 assists. Pompton Lakes, West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes. Carter Beswick, the sophomore, believe it or not, the only, I believe, Highlander on this, or one of 2 Highlanders on this list with 2 assists. Did Carter Beswick have? Gavin Franklin with 2 assists for Pascack Park Ridge, specifically also from Pascack Hills. Joe Meyer, 2 assists in 8th place from Pascack Park Ridge for them. Dash Murray, 2 assists for Ridgewood. And Colton Lathrop, the only player who plays on the team whose team has been eliminated, with 2 assists for Northern Valley, specifically from the Old Tapan Golden Knights. And he is in 10th place in that spot. Now we move on to goals. Excuse me. Joe Meyer, 3 goals for Pascack Park Ridge. And you'll see there's 2 players with 1 goal, or a lot of players had 1 goal. Friedman and Tarabaki had multiple points. That's kind of how we levied it. Even though it's not really anything to do with goals, you had way too many players that had tied with 1 goal, and only 8 players in the conference had multi-goal games through one conference, one round of play. And that stands with Clifton United because they have goals by Rasher and Cisco. So far, at least. Meyer, first with 3 goals from Pascack Park Ridge, specifically from Park Ridge. Will Lazaro with 3 goals, a hat trick in that game as well. Ben Barada had a brace for Northern Highlands, 3rd place in the playoffs. Sherman with 2 goals, Sam Sherman for Ridgewood. Joy Barquario, 2 goals for West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lake, specifically from the Pequannock Panthers out in Morris County. Jack Sheehan in 6th place with 2 goals from Pascack Park Ridge as well. From Pascack Valley. Grayson Wheeler, 2 goals, also from Pascack Valley. AJ Lazaro, 2 goals in 8th place from the Ridgewood Maroons. Davin Friedman had a goal we mentioned in 9th place for Northern Highlands. And Marty Tarabaki, a 1 goal from Pascack Valley from Pascack Park Ridge hockey. As I want to mention, under 5 minutes to go, Clifton United is going back to the power play. Officially 5:02 left in the third. Oh, now they took clock off. Apparently the clock was wrong. 4:40 to go in the third. And it is 5-2 Knowles Hills, but Clifton United's going to the power play. Not a lot of time left. And we'll mention that. We'll also give a preview if CU can come back on regulation. We would not give a preview if it goes to overtime and not have time for that. But let's move on to the playoffs, to the quarterfinals, and let's talk about Northern Highlands and Morristown. So Northern Highlands, Morristown, they meet tomorrow, 4:10 in Sportorama. The Highlanders and the Colonials. They have only met once, which was in January of 2021, when both teams ended up tying 1-1. And look, Morristown's a really strong team. They've got some great offensive players, no doubt about it. Ian Anderson, a strong coach of them. But look, when you talk about the Colonials, you talk about Northern Highlands, they've got so many good goal scorers. Conrad Careau, the senior, 27 points. 17 points from Suma. Wes Thomas and the defenseman. Luke Williams, their sophomore superstar forward. Boy, it's going to be hard for Northern Highlands to contain some of this offensive presence. But Morristown likes to park the bus a lot. They like to play a lot of defense and get great goaltending. So it's going to be high-octane shots. And this is a much more experienced team for the most part with Morristown than Northern Highlands. However, I do think the Highlanders are going to get it done. They're at home ice. This is a team that's just so well dialed in the way that they can play hockey. I got this team winning 5-3. Friedman will get the game-winning goal, and Northern Highlands will survive. They will beat Morristown, and they will move on to the semi-finals. Let's bring up the other game that for sure is going to be going on in the afternoon as well, which actually we should have started with because it's before that game occurs. West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes going up against KJS United. I've been dueling with this game. This is tough because WMPQPL limped into this postseason, but I think they got a lot out of the way that they were able to score against West Essex Caldwell. I don't know what happened against Parsippany Regional. Even the fact that KJS may not have been playing at full strength, Cisco may not have played, and Cisco he's the prospect for a reason, a heavy goal scorer at the USHL. But what would worry me as a KJS fan, especially an alum of the team, is this team reminds me a lot of the Pascack Park Ridge team last year. A great regular season, had some ups and downs with some super strong opponents of play, and then you kind of run out of gas. Goaltender being streaky, that can cause some problems, and I don't believe Filowich, the goaltender for KJS, is at the level of where Montana is. So advantage WPQPL goaltending-wise, and I see way too many similarities of last year with what KJS did to Pascack Park Ridge that could happen to them. I got upset. I got WPQPL winning this game 3-2, not in overtime, but they get a late goal in the third. Joey Barraquario gets the goal. By the way, it's curtains for CU. Brandon Strunk just scored a massive goal. It was an incredible goal. 6-2, Morris Knolls, Morris Hills, with 2:25 to go in the third period there between Clifton United and Mars Knolls, Mars Hills. So it looks like Clifton United's season is about to end unless they could score 4 goals in the next 2:25. But back to this, yeah, I think West Milford Pequannock Pompton Lakes is going to eliminate the defending champions tomorrow afternoon. Unfortunately, I do think they're fortunately for me, because I went to Jefferson, but for the Big North's sake, I think that they will get it done and they will advance to the semifinals against a Big North squad, either the Paramus Tri-Op or the Pascack Park Ridge Tri-Op. I have WMPQPL winning this game. So there is that game as well. We mentioned, and we'll bring up Ramapo and Randolph. Ramapo versus Randolph. Oh, this will be a tough game. Randolph had some weapons Ramapo doesn't know about. They're not ready to deal with, like Chris Afuli, that can really score goals. Goaltending wise, again, I think this is another advantage for the Big North squad. I don't believe that the solidified defense is enough to deal with Randolph. They know how to play some superb teams. Ramapo could not handle Northern Highlands. Randolph beat Northern Highlands this year. And to me, guys like Shane Melly, guys that can win the faceoff constantly, and on that ice, Randolph is going to be a problem. I think Ramapo keeps it close early on, but I got this 7-3 Rams, but the game isn't really a 7-3 game, but the final score ends up being 7-3 in favor of Randolph. I don't think Ramapo gets it done here. I got to be honest when I need to be. Let's talk about Pascack Park Ridge hockey going up against Paramus, Lyndhurst, Mahwah. Mentioned Northern Hounds, mentioned Ramapo, mentioned WMPQPL. So we just got to talk about this game and the Ridgewood game and the Wayne hockey game. Boy, it's a tough one to call as well. This is a tough one to call. I went against both of these teams, and now they will meet at Ice Vault, which, again, there have been some magical games in the Ice Vault, and I think this and the fact that this game is going to be in Wayne, I think it's going to be some issues for Pascack Park Ridge. However, I do think they will gut it out in overtime. 3-2 overtime goal. And it will be Owen Dargan who gets the game winner for Pascack Park Ridge to send them to either Englewood or Monsey, whichever they decide, to face West Milford Pequannock Pompton Lakes. I have Pascack Park Ridge, but I could definitely see Paramus Lyndhurst Mahwah winning this game. It'll be a really interesting game. We have a final. Apparently, I wasn't sure what all the hugging was about. I saw 110 on the third, but I guess the clock wasn't on correctly, and we have a final. Clifton United season is unfortunately over for them. 44-19 in shots on goal. I mean, Canataro got shelled. 42 stops on 44 Morris Knolls, Morris Hills shots. So Morris Knolls, Morris Hills will have an all MCSIHL matchup likely on Friday against Park Regional. So again, we wanted to commend Clifton United on a tough season. Then there were 7 because Clifton United is eliminated from the state playoffs. So obviously Rasher got a goal today. Which is the final of his career. Cisco got a goal today. Not the final of his career. He's only a sophomore, the Clifton Mustang. But congratulations to Robert Amiano, Leo Marzullo, Cedar Grove, Ionis Colermanis, Passaic Valley, Little Falls, senior defenseman. Caden Behan, senior from Clifton United. Nick Chang, senior. Ben Smith, senior. Trevor Rasher, Connor Peterson, Eric Ring, Ryan Montana. What a goal scorer he has been. Thomas Canataro and Ryan Gallagher, the 2 goaltenders. A lot of this team graduates. They got a divisional title. They went all the way to the Silver Cup final, but just couldn't get it done in the playoffs. They lose today 6-2 to Morris Knolls, Morris Hills. Congratulations again to Clifton United on a tough year and a strong year for them. So congratulations to them. But now let's move on to the final 2 games. The final 2 games, as we were mentioning. And we'll start with Ridgewood. And Summit, actually, no. We will start with Wayne Hockey and Mohoha now. Wayne Hockey, Mohoha. Well, Wayne Hockey, boy, did they have a scare against TCL. But they'll face Mohoha, who took care of Riverdale Westwood Emerson, the only North Public Co-op lower seed to be victorious. I think Wayne Hockey's run ends here, though. Stansfield and Ashkenazi, the occasional Cole, are key players, but Egan's had to face the brunt of all the attacks, and I think this is going to be another Landazzi game. I think he'll have a hat trick. 5-1 Mohoha is the final here. I don't think Wayne Hockey gets it done, unfortunately. Again, I'm going to pick against a Big North team. Now let's go to the final game. Sure when this game will be. Thought maybe tomorrow or possibly Friday. From Hackensack and the Ice House, Summit, who they parked the bus. They play so strong defensively. Largershow, their goaltender, got an assist today. You never really see that. He also got a shutout. 3-0 win over Chatham. And they play really stingy defense, but they do a lot of poke checking. They do a lot of swinging sticks in areas and tying people up. Here's the thing. If Ridgewood cannot constantly try to tee up Lasaros and pucks go wide, that's going to give Summit a lane to stay in this game. If Ridgewood can find other ways to score, Low Pryor, Sherman, McCarthy, Braun, they're going to have opportunities to win this game, and they're going to need their goaltender in Grant. Summit doesn't give up a lot of goals, even against top-tier high-echelon teams like Livingston and Westfield, and they have a super strong schedule, but so does Ridgewood. Ridgewood's played Gordon teams, Gordon American teams at that. I believe Ridgewood's going to come away with the win here. 5-2. I think they're going to play better than 5-2, but Summit they're one of the best defensive teams in the state efficiency. They sacrifice goal scoring and even offensive possessions for just manhandling you with their defense. Ridgewood's going to have a fight with Summit. Chatham is even more physical, but they would allow the back and forth plays down the board. So Summit's not going to allow that. So Ridgewood really has to figure out which I'll be amazed. I really, and that's the thing. I'm not going to go against the state how they're scheduling games, but even if they do a night game tomorrow to give them more time, I don't see this being game tomorrow, and that would be a lot of stress on both of these squads because Summit's going to have to figure out how are we stopping Los Sarles in this power play, and Ridgewood's going to say how can we get off the boards and get guys to the net. So that's why I think they're going to give them a day in advance, Friday in general, for this matchup. But Ridgewood will face Summit. And I do believe Ridgewood will beat Summit, and Ridgewood will face Northern Highlands for the second consecutive year, likely on Monday possibly before our show. Again, we got to figure that out because the way that the state is working it here is that I believe that the semifinal games will be going on Monday, and that the sectional finals will be on Thursday. So if that's the case, if they do that in that way, I don't know if we want to do a show after those final or if we should do a Thursday or a Friday show. So if there are no Big North teams in the sectional final, which again, I highly doubt. If West, and I'll tell you right now, if West Milford, Pequannock, Pompton Lakes wins tomorrow, it's all you guys want to bracket watch. All you got to watch. If they win that game tomorrow, you're guaranteed for the third consecutive year a North Co-op sectional final with a Big North team. And if Northern Highlands and Ridgewood both win, we're guaranteed a North Public game with a sectional final. So if that's the case, I would probably lean towards doing a late Thursday night show or a Friday show. However, if there is no Big North team in the sectional final, I'm probably doing a Tuesday. Jen and Kurt will have that conversation in-house. We'll figure out exactly how we want to do this. But this is how it spans right now. And so I hope you guys enjoy this, and we'll have a stream coming up at some point next week. And again, the next week, it's going to be March. So this is sad, but we only have 2 shows left, guys. We're going to either have a semifinal show the most 3. We do a semifinal show one day and then a sectional final show after that. But to me, I think we don't have a lot left, and this has been fun. Obviously, we're going to have a mega show on the 10th of March, where we'll be going over, not only the state championships if Big North teams were there, but also we'll be going over the final stats for everybody in saves, goals, assisted, points, and revealing our rewards. So we have 3 the most left, 2 the least. So it'll be 3 the least, 2 the most shows left. But hopefully you enjoy, and we'll see you next time.